Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me now. And let's get the results of the gun. Rose, pray tell that our killer left a juicy clue on the gun they used to kill our victim. Well, I compared the gun's bullets with the one Dick retrieved from your victim's skull, and I could confirm that this Besson 32 is indeed your murder weapon, Matthew. However, your killer was smart enough to wipe the gun entirely clean of any substances which might have given away their identity. My dear Rose, you cannot mean to say that you have nothing for us. Luckily for you, a professional like me can determine a lot about a gun's owner just by looking at the weapon contents. For example, the wear and tear on the handle can tell you in which hand they hold their gun. And in this case, your killer shoots with their right hand. So our killer is right-handed. Well, they shall have both hands in irons with you on the case, Matthew. Well, there's clue number one. Right-handed person. I'm a lefty myself. Have been in adults aged 18 and older. The majority of those infected have been on with 409 confirmed cases. There are also cases. Matthew, it is a curious thing, the mind of a killer. I usually find it more distasteful than curious, but do go on. Well, take Patricia Rochester's killer, for example. That single shot to the head would have killed her instantly. And still, the killer could not help but check her pulse to make absolutely certain that she was dead. Which, as always, was their undoing. You see, this allowed me to find traces of oats, milk, and honey on your victim's neck. All of which are components of the delightfully fortifying breakfast food, porridge. So our killer eats porridge. Well, no matter how fortifying their breakfast, they shan't have the stamina to outrun you, Matthew. Look, I'm Goldilocks and the Three Bears here. Matthew, we came to Gryphon Sanctuary to catch whoever is committing people on false grounds of insanity. But now we're faced with another problem, finding out who murdered Patricia Rochester. The asylum director, Gregory Stravinsky, is as clueless and incompetent as ever. While Patricia's husband, Horatio, showed no emotion at all when discussing her murder. And most alarmingly, you discover that Viola visited Patricia too. I worry that her quest to reconcile with her family's past is leading her into treacherous waters. Matthew, something's definitely amiss in the asylum, and... Matthew, great news! Constable Ramirez. I was taking a look around the asylum grounds, and I found something you'll want to see. Okay.
Prices on Oahu's Leeward Coast are up more than 60% compared to 5 years ago. That's according to the data from real estate firm Locations. The report shows average prices for single-family homes are up $170,000 since 2020.
And I will see you guys
up on the Leeward Coast to the tune of 72%
for Chapter 2.
64,000.
Okay, we are back now. Okay, we are back now. Let's start Chapter 2 of Unsafe Haven. My man, you're perspiring at an alarming rate. Whatever's the matter? Well, you see, the gardens of the asylum are rather vast, and I ran all the way back here. I found a treehouse in the asylum gardens. I think it was Patricia's hideaway, but you better see it for yourself, Matthew. Our victim had a hideaway? Matthew, we had better examine this treehouse without delay.
It's Ford SUV
and that's number 2 for coins.
Designed to detect what they don't.
See, unlike Ace, he skips ahead on the coins, which is which is definitely not a problem. I like to post my coins because I need all the cards I can get. I've already come to terms with the fact that there's no more food rewards for the end of the cases. But
Oh well, what can you do?
Hearing loss or speech disability is Relay Hawaii Connect. Relay Hawaii is a free service that offers telephone services and specialized equipment so you can call anytime, anywhere. Relay Hawaii provides telephone access, like CapTel for people with hearing loss, and access for people with speech disabilities. Most services are available for Spanish language callers too. Relay Hawaii, connecting all of us.
Pile of leaves, that's a clue there.
Welcome back.
Wallet.
Just around the corner on the right shoulder, we've got good casualty.
Rainfall.
For the first time ever, we've got big wave surfing just around
scenery, getting out and about in the elements. Of course, Pete, I know
First
that,
star.
It's pretty exciting, you know, the women getting out there. So long it's been the men out for the Eddie Powell competition. So, what do you see now?
Matthew, Constable Ramirez was onto something. Patricia must have frequented this treehouse, for that framed photograph clearly depicts her. But what about this gentleman in the picture? You're right, we better consult our archives. You reckon that pile of leaves may hide another clue? Let us look through it without delay. Matthew, these clues might allow us a glimpse into Patricia's life beyond her madness, which in turn may hold the key to her murder.
Over the next few days. Now, event organizers and some competitors gathered here at Waimea this afternoon, and a group prayer just happened and paddle out. That's something they always do before the Eddie Big Wave event for men. Now they adopted the same tradition for women. For it's always a good idea because, you know, situations can get dangerous here, monstrous waves. That's what we saw with the last Eddie. You can only have more skills.
I'm going to go ahead and do everything else.
Just that, the best female surfers, not only from the U.S., but from around the world, Australia, New Zealand, Portugal, of course.
That first one was easy.
Only average Mother Nature tolerates nearly 35 to 40 foot waves. If the sun gods run up those waves between now and
There we
the
go.
21st, it'll be a go for the Women's Olympic Championship. So
Oh, and I still got the 9. Clarence Watts.
next month or so. Now let's go and take a look at
Matthew, the gentleman next to Patricia in the photograph, is one Clarence Watts. I do not reckon we know that name. What does the record say? Born to a wealthy Concordia merchant, 58 years of age, and wait, it says brother to his younger sister Patricia. Matthew, Clarence Watts is Patricia's brother. She was Patricia Watts before she became a Rochester. What a bittersweet display of sisterly affection, Matthew. Despite her grave illness, Patricia clearly still remembered her brother if she kept his photograph. We shall approach Mr. Watts with compassion, for that he reveals valuable information about his sister's past, and hope that he reveals valuable information.
Those showers moving offshore. We'll take a look at the rest of the islands. We're going to continue to watch the potential for scattered trade showers as we head into the night, and we'll be watching for those showers.
Mr. Watts, Senior Trooper Matthew and I have the sad duty of informing you that your sister Patricia died at Gryphon Sanctuary today. It appears she was murdered. Murdered? My poor, poor sister, as if being locked up in that asylum wasn't bad enough. It was a fate I never imagined for her when we were children. We had everything we could wish for. Violin lessons, horse riding, summers in the country. And Patricia was as quick-witted as you or me, Senior Trooper Matthew. Such a promising young lady. If you don't mind us asking, when did her mind begin to falter? The day Patricia decided to marry into the Rochester family. That was when the dark clouds started to gather in her mind. She didn't need any head doctors before her wedding day. It was only after her marriage that her brain turned soft, like the porridge I eat for breakfast. Senior Trooper Matthew, I trust you'll find Patricia's killer, but whoever did it only killed her body. It was the Rochesters who destroyed her mind. Make no mistake about that.
You know what? Not so bad. We've got our wins. Not a whole lot of waves, but we do. Mother Nature can bring us a swell as we head into on Friday, and then that's going to be another one as we move into Sunday. So we watch for some bigger waves. We'll be back out here in Waimea Bay coming up at 6 o'clock. For now, Cajano.
Okay.
Back to morning.
Hey, Pete. Pete, can you hear us?
Bloody necklace.
You can. Okay, we just want to talk about the report. And don't worry, bro, I got your back on the weather graphics. We were flowing.
Thanks, Lonnie.
All right, thanks, Pete. We'll check back.
Matthew, the pearl necklace he found in that pile of leaves is covered in blood. I believe you're right. Patricia wore a necklace quite like this one, and the blood would suggest it was ripped off her neck after she was murdered. We may not be able to send it to Viola now that she's made herself a suspect in the murder, but Richard will make short work of examining the blood on this necklace, Matthew. And that's going to be 4 times, 4 coins that I'll share. And I'm going to get the rest of the stars. So sit tight, everyone. So I don't have to wait very long. I'll see you guys then. See y'all. Okay, we are back now. Let's get the results of Bloody Necklace. Hello again, Matthew. While I'm by no means glad that Viola has gotten herself entangled in a murder investigation, I must say that it is a joy to examine something other than cadavers for once. I am glad to hear it, Richard. So is there anything on this bloody necklace that brings us closer to Patricia's killer? Well, the blood on this necklace was definitely the victim's, which means it was your killer who ripped it off the body and dropped it near the treehouse. Given its value, they might have intended to retrieve it later, or to keep it as a morbid souvenir. But the curious thing is that I also found fresh traces of carbolic acid on the pearls. Extracted from coal tar, carbolic acid has antiseptic properties and is commonly used in the form of soap. Matthew, your killer must have left these traces behind when they handled the necklace. So our killer uses carbolic soap. No matter how slippery they are, I know you'll catch them, Matthew. You're right. We might find more clues at the admissions office. Let us away, Matthew. I can tell we're hot on the killer's trail.
He just looked at me. It was hard for him to speak. He said, "What'd you do that for, man? Didn't you talk to him?" And I just looked at him. Then he said, "It was an act."
Did you ask him what he meant by that?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Nothing. He died.
I have further questions.
Did you ever meet Mr. Stark before?
Once at one of those network press things kicked off the next season. I think he was at my casting section.
But did you know him to be involved in the day relationship? He ever give you any
Don't mind this
directions or
computer.
anything?
It is a little slow, but other than
Did he
that,
tell you
it's
to
okay.
look for West?
No.
Did he tell you to physically assault Wesley Jackson?
Faded journal.
No.
Nothing question.
Huh.
What was the role of the
He checked in and showed me the first got phone.
3 seconds.
How frequently did he talk to
Now,
you
of course, as you know, I was able to do this case in regular mode, but unfortunately, there was a rookie to Bandicam. I messed up on the rest of the chapters after the first. What's that you picked up there, Matthew? It appears to be a journal, but the writing is entirely faded. If we wish to uncover the musings of whomever it belonged to, you shall have to recover what was written. And as for that filing cabinet, I trust you'll unlock it in a heartbeat. We're finally making headway into this investigation, Matthew. Let's not lose momentum now.
Corey and I just... No.
You aware of Byron Stark telling Paul Riley anything at all?
No, I'm not.
No further questions.
Okay.
It's a very competitive business. I want to win as much as anyone.
H1L.
Someone physically hurt. Place somebody in jeopardy. Not for anything.
EXH, there we go.
You did have a conversation with Wesley Taylor.
Yes, I
5 UM.
did.
quote bad boy of the household.
What could these broken pieces possibly be doing in this filing cabinet, Matthew? Whatever they are, they appear to have been confiscated by Nurse May. There's only one way to elucidate the matter. Let us piece them back together.
Did you suggest to Wesley Tatum that a fight take place on the roof?
No.
Well, what did you suggest to Mr. Tatum?
That provided he was comfortable with it. The petty squabbles, the interpersonal conflicts, who ate all the cookies and didn't say anything, could make for good television.
Did you have any indication that this suggestion would lead to physical violence and ultimately Mr. Tatum's death?
None whatsoever.
Nothing further?
No indication your suggestion would lead to violence.
That's right.
Did you read the psychological profiles of either one of these kids?
Here we go.
Objective to the suggestion.
Why, what a beautiful little trinket, Matthew. It depicts none other than our victim. I should imagine this cameo must have been one of Patricia's most treasured items, yet Nurse May confiscated it. I wonder why she did such a thing, Matthew. Let us ask Nurse May without delay.
It's not just me, that's everybody.
When did your conversation with Wesley Tatum take place?
We're in the nursery.
Mrs. May, can you explain why you confiscated Patricia Rochester's cameo? Oh, I thought I'd locked that away. Yes, you locked it away so carelessly that it broke.
Okay.
That wasn't intentional. I only wanted to return Patricia to her senses. She was convinced some sort of conspiracy was at work against her. I told her it was just her delusions playing tricks on her. But instead of accepting me at my word, she laced my porridge with sedatives so she could sneak out to the gardens after dark. I woke up in the bath, my carbolic soap still in my hand. I always try to be gentle with our patients, but I could have drowned thanks to her actions. We see. Well, we can only hope your disciplinary actions ended at confiscating Patricia's items, Mrs. May. Otherwise, Senior Trooper Matthew will be sure to find out. Matthew, drugging a member of the asylum staff sounds strangely calculated for a troubled mind like Patricia's. I wonder what prompted her to go to such extreme lengths. I guess that remains for us to figure out. In the meantime, you're right. Nurse May was holding her clipboard in her right hand. I'll add it to her profile. Okay, that's the third coins I can share.
And next, stay on the case in the city that never sleeps. Don't you guys ever get tired? Until the verdict is in.
Faded journal now.
You have the right to keep things in law and order. Now, explain it to them. That's how we serve justice. Bending over to put on your socks is brutally painful every day. Well, not anymore. Introducing Sock Slider. The pain inclusion no day will away to comfortably put on your socks every day. Just place your sock on the cradle, lower the cradle to the floor, and slide your foot in. It's that easy. Sock Slider gets the socks on for you. So bending over is something you never have to do. Find your favorite sock.
Boy, this thing moves so quickly.
Sock Slider is available online and at retailers near you.
There we go. I may only get one energy, but that's alright. My word, Matthew! Look at that drawing you recovered in the journal. It appears to be Patricia Rochester with devil horns. And look at what's written next to it. I know I must forgive Patricia for what she did, but I am not sure I can. But there's no indication of who wrote this, Matthew. Clearly, whoever it was held a grudge against Patricia. Perhaps Diego can analyze the writing and determine the journal's owner.
Adults who have type 2 diabetes and heart disease, and lower your A1C.
There's a chance I might speed this up. I meant to speed up the last one, but I kind of got wrapped up in other things.
Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, stomach pain,
24 hours. See you guys then.
Call your doctor right away when you have symptoms of ketoacidosis or an allergic reaction.
Okay, welcome back, folks. It's now time. Let's get the diary entry. I was wondering when you'd show up, Matthew. Why, Diego? No witticism to introduce your findings? I think it's better that I get straight to the point, Bontemps. I analyzed the contents of the journal, and here's what I can tell you about who drew your victim with horns. Judging by the handwriting, the author is educated in the sciences and of an analytical persuasion. However, the drawing tells me that they are a lover of the arts and have a theatrical side to their personality. This all sounds familiar somehow. That is because this journal belongs to Viola. Viola? But what on earth would she be angry at Patricia Rochester for? Matthew, I had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but we must question Viola once again.
That is a great story. So this process with SRC as he was here with us in spirit.
As this generation slowly drifts into the pages of our history books, these men and women leave knowing what they did won't soon be forgotten. Reporting in Washington, I'm Kelly Meyer, Eyewitness News.
Viola, Matthew found your journal. What did you mean when you said you didn't know if you could forgive Patricia? How dare you? You had no right to pry into my affairs. Viola, you know better than anyone what a murder investigation entails. Now please answer the question. Fine. If you must know, Horatio has told me the truth as to why he cast my mother away when she fell pregnant. It's all because of Patricia. Horatio was ready to recognize me as his legitimate child, but she forced him to turn me into a secret. I have given my right hand to have been able to grow up with him around, and she took that away from me. Viola, while your faith in your father is commendable, perhaps you trust him too much. Let us just hope that this perceived injustice did not drive you to madness.
Now, before the Unsafe bought that complex, it was at risk of being...
Well, that's one mark against Viola. Matthew, we're still missing a conclusive lead as to who killed Patricia Rochester and why. All we have are claims that Patricia's paranoia led her to drug one of the nurses, and that Horatio turned Viola against our victim by assuring her that Patricia was the reason he refused to recognize her as his child. Matthew, sorry to interrupt, but Catherine insists that she must speak with you. Catherine? What is she doing here? Senior Trooper Matthew, I've come to warn you. The press got wind that a Rochester was murdered at Gryphon Sanctuary. Everyone's heading there now. Oh, wow.
It's rush hour. Check how it's going.
It's back, so how's it looking tonight?
Now I got coins to share.
Accidents or reports, so that is good news. A lot of obviously folks on the roadway, as you'd expect this time of day, but overall things moving along decently. The old white guy coming in at 35 minutes, a little bit better than.
I'll see you guys for chapter 3. Okay, and we're back now. Let's start chapter 3 of Unsafe Haven. Of course, I'm in elite mode because of my rookiness of Bandicam, and I ended up losing most of the rest of chapter 2 and all of chapter 3 and the additional investigation. Matthew, we found Patricia Rochester dead in the asylum basement hours ago, and we're still desperately short on leads. Oh wait, no.
Well, the clouds returned today. Not only rain for all, we had some showers, but most of that rainfall not heavy. We certainly saw a cloudy with some sunshine.
My editor says this is too sensational to miss out on. The asylum's refusing to let them in, but it's only a matter of time before they sneak past security. Botheration! As if dealing with murderers and the insane weren't enough, now we have the press meddling as well. You're right, Matthew. We had better go back to Patricia's hideaway before one of those journalists finds it.
We'll take a look at the radar. Yeah, you can drive today. We had some light rain, but the majority The showers were just...
Now I know that this video will be posted before the new case is out, but if you happen to see that I don't have all the stars by the time the next case comes out in a few hours, that's okay, because by the time I post this video, I would have had all stars, and I will have done everything. This case would have been done, and I will be working on the next case, but I know I gotta catch up on my cases. But by the time I post this video, I would have posted every case that I have done so far.
Yesterday, about 5 inches of rain, that was the record. So any additional rain obviously can cause some trouble. The soil's already soaked up about as much moisture as it can. Now this frontal bounce is some clearing for tomorrow, at least here in Oahu. Also watching the storm system, there's going to be a big swell. We had a big surf today, and that next swell moves in Friday. So today 20 to 25 minutes came in much quicker than expected on the north shore. The surf warning in effect. Tomorrow it comes down to 12 to 18, 8 to 12 for surf and caution. We'll see another surf swell that could be at 25 feet or above. Move in Friday, so another
target.
2 to 4 for east, 3 to 5 for south shore tonight. 69 degrees to 11 for the potential for a few more scattered showers from County. And then around 85 for tomorrow. Oahu clears out. We see the sun return. Still some clouds and still a few showers.
I can't find the pine cone.
More moisture coming next week. We'll talk more about that. We're going island by island. Coming up at 6 o'clock on the road.
All right, thanks, Pete. We're coming up on Department of Public Safety looking for these two men. They walked away, jail on parole.
Matthew, thank goodness we got here before any reporters could force their way in. What did you find? Satchel. Somebody must have really wanted to keep its contents secret, but you'll make short work of opening it. And restoring that torn paper will surely prove instructive, too. Matthew on our side, but we must solve Patricia Rochester's murder before the press starts to publish their speculations. Let us proceed. Okay. Five, 7, 5, 7, 5. 7, 5, 4, 5, 7. 4, 5, 7. 2, 4. There we go. 17. Energy. Matthew, you got the satchel open. Let's see what's inside. This folder belonged to our victim. She even wrote "keep out" on the cover. Patricia must have really wanted to protect these papers. And even if her mind was troubled, who's to say she didn't stumble upon something important? You're right, Matthew. Everything will make more sense once Evie sifts through these documents. Man, this is 6 hours. But once I get all the stars, I might be speeding this up, but depending on what this is. Depending on what's the Confronting Gazette. There we go. Look, Matthew, this copy of the Confronting Gazette is so old, the front page is completely faded. I know you won't let that deter you, though. Let us recover the faded text.
I think it's fine. 36 reports so far of the motor over.
I'm listening to my local news, but please disregard that. I get really testy when I'm commented about my background noise.
For more information, visit the asylum section of KITV.com. Looking for a thrill? There's still time to go over the edge for special week.
Finally, the industry propelled 400 feet down the high Regency Viking Beach on Colombo Avenue. It'll happen October 28th. Look at some of the video from last year's fundraiser. The highlight is from however special participants get a beautiful bird's-eye view of the key. That's how they do it for one of the special folding athletes came up to.
Oh great, now it's only one. There we go.
Every single year, it's cool to see people come down. I'm just so happy that they accomplished something really awesome.
Matthew, look at this headline. Child prodigy has violin dreams dashed. And according to the article, that's a young Clarence Watts in the picture. This article claims that Mr. Watts was said to participate in an international violin competition until he broke his arm. Such an old article. That was strange. I wonder how such an old article ended up out here, though, Matthew. We must speak with Mr. Watts at once.
What good is having insurance if you're punished for using it?
For drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise your rates on your first accident. Liberty Mutual Insurance. When you see my resume, you imagine who I am.
Mr. Watts, Senior Trooper Matthew found this article relating to an unfortunate accident you suffered as a young... Did Patricia keep that article all this time? Oh, my dear sister, a more delicate soul there never was. I had no idea she still harbored the guilt of that mishap. Guilt? What do you mean? You may not know it from the man standing in front of you today, but I was once a child wonder, a young Vivaldi, people said I was. It was 2 weeks before I was set to prove myself on an international stage when Patricia tripped me up and broke my arm. It was purely accidental, but the anger of my teenage self knew no bounds. I refused to speak to Patricia for months despite her pleas and tearful apologies. She told me she'd never forgive herself, and I said I'd never forgive her either. Family quarrels do indeed have a nasty tendency to linger, Mr. Watts. Our relationship eventually returned to normal, but I never took the time to tell her I no longer blamed her for the accident. She must have carried the guilt to her grave. And looks like that'll do. I'll speed up Patricia's folder after I get the rest of the charts. Hold on, everyone. See all that? Okay. I'm back again, and I said I would speed this up, and I would. I will, rather. Matthew, the folder Patricia hid away contains her own medical records from Gryphon Sanctuary, and they paint a bleak picture. Do you know why she was declared insane all those years ago? For being of a defiant nature and prone to undermining her husband's authority. I have to admit, that sounds more like of those bogus reasons which are used to commit people of sound mind.
The subject of the documentary,
Exactly. Patricia may have lost her mind in Gryphon, but I can assure you she wasn't delusional when she entered it.
It's a shot on social media and gets pushed back.
And one person who would know. A friend of hers? Yes, me. I admit learning that dear Patricia had ended up at Gryphon was quite the shock. Her family said she'd gone to live by the sea. Did you know Patricia well? Well, I attended her wedding to Horatio. I instantly thought their union was doomed. Patricia spoke her mind too freely, and that is never wise for a married woman of her standing. Later, it was rumored that Patricia openly challenged the family about their associations with some less than salubrious characters. And you know the Rochester Senior Trooper, Matthew, they don't take kindly to dissenters. Frankly, I wasn't surprised by her departure from the social scene. So Horatio got rid of his dissenting wife by locking her up in an insane asylum. Even for him, this is despicable. Matthew, let us confront him. And let's see what Horatio has to say. Mr. Rochester, what exactly were the reasons for your wife's admittance to Gryphon Sanctuary? She was downright insufferable to live with. Once she threw my porridge in my face, and then my carbolic soap right after it. The woman was out of control. The only way to calm her down was by giving her the back of my right hand. You hit a woman? And then when she continued to defy you, you locked her up in the asylum to get rid of her? How dare you throw about such accusations? Have you ever been married, Detective Bontemps? You have absolutely no idea what it was like. I simply did what any husband would do in face of such a willfully disobedient spouse. And I won't take criticism from the likes of you for it. Matthew, Horatio as good as admitted he had Patricia committed because he didn't like her. It's time the asylum director was held accountable for these unjustified committals. Let's put him on the spot.
Welcome back. Well, we're cooling off really quickly. It should be a nice night, even a little bit cool late as we get down to the 60s in many spots. 75 degrees of current temperature. We have north winds coming in at 9. We saw a nice sunset there. Rainfall.
Senior Trooper Matthew, you're here again. Have you seen my carbolic soap? Hygiene is very important here, and I won't eat my porridge with dirty hands. Your porridge can wait. We know Horatio Rochester had his wife admitted here because she became inconvenient for the family. This is the second time we found proof that you admitted someone of sound mind. Are you still going to claim ignorance? Patricia wasn't insane when she got here? I had no idea, I swear. How could you have not known? Does no one examine these people before they're admitted? Look, Senior Trooper Matthew, tell me, how many of your criminals profess to be guilty? Don't they all plead, rage, deny their guilt, and insist they're innocent? Our patients are the same, but we'd be unwise to believe them, would we not? Patricia was no different. She was a textbook lunatic. I can say this with my hand on my heart. Right hand. Believe us, the time will come when you have to face up to your role in all this, Director, and the fact that you're right-handed has just earned you a prime spot on our suspect list.
20 to 25 footers from the North Shore, so the assault today actually came bigger than expected. Another one by Friday.
Matthew, our investigation so far has unearthed some disturbing facts. Even though the asylum clearly broke her spirit in the end, it appears Patricia was as sane as you or me when she was first admitted to Gryphon. Horatio outright rebuffed our accusations that he had her committed solely because she had become an inconvenience for the family. While the asylum director, Gregory Stravinsky, is still fervently proclaiming his innocence. There's no end of slippery characters, but if we're to discover who actually killed Patricia Rochester, we require hard proof. And the best place to find that is at the scene of the crime. Let us away, Matthew.
Get some clouds and a few scattered showers. Heading to 69 is the expected low for tomorrow. Clear skies, a lot pretty quiet. You've already cleared out, so you'll see sunshine there for our western islands. Our eastern islands, still some light rain, not as much as we saw today, but some scattered showers, clouds still around, maybe some bits of sunshine for Maui County, but overall that front storm plays, and that means At times, you can see rain from now getting around 85. The expected high temperature, and as we take a look at the extended forecast.
Of course, as mentioned earlier, I did go on in this, and I thought I was doing this right, but it turns out I only got the first chapter on and part of the second, and after that it was just nothing but trouble. I didn't get the rest of it when I thought I did. I blame my rookiness for Bandicam, but eventually I'll get it, but eventually I got it figured out.
Maui electric crew is still trying to restore power upcountry after Monday night storm damaged electrical systems there. If you still don't have power, call Nico, that number 871-7777.
Now, because of the outage, a water pump in Colorado, so residents in Colorado
Box of bullets.
are asked to conserve water until 10 tomorrow morning.
Plus, there's a groundwater advisory for Honolulu Bay. Hawaii's Department of Health says the public should stay out of floodwaters and stormwater runoff at the North Shore spot. And not all coastal areas may be impacted, but better to be safe. If the water is brown, stay out.
The biggest damage of the year this week for you is reading the book.
Off-season fate most likely on the line. Remember what he hit the road today?
Definitely would have given me the first star, but that's alright.
Time in D2 prep volleyball and extras in World Series game number 2 tonight.
Matthew, that handkerchief is soaked through with blood. I agree, the killer must have used his handkerchief to wipe their hands clean after they checked Patricia's pulse. It's a long shot, but with any luck, collecting a sample from the handkerchief will give us something more than just Patricia's blood. And these bullets are for a Best in 32 revolver, the exact type of gun our killer used. You're right. Searching through them might give us the vital clue we need. Matthew, we're hot on the trail of whoever committed this heinous crime. Let us see that they pay for their wrongdoing.
If you are the CEO of your own life, and like any CEO, you could use a smart financial planner. Insurance and investments at American Savings Bank. Don't let guesswork get in the way of playtime.
Okay, let's see how I do here.
2017 Nissan Frontier and the 2017 Titan. Now, we find intelligent mobility featuring technologies that help you get to the farm faster.
12. I swear that thing goes by way too fast. Matthew, let's send that blood you collected from the killer's handkerchief to Charlie. I'm sure he'll jump at the chance to use his DNA machine. 18 hours. And wait just a minute. There we go. So I got a fresh 10 minutes, but that's okay. Get the box of bullets out of the way.
Enjoy the best deals on all remaining 2017 Toyotas. Get 0% APR on almost every Toyota in stock, including the 2017 RAV4, Sienna, and Prius. And drive the all-new 2018 Camry for 0.9% APR. Don't wait. Hurry into the year-end sales.
14. Well, Matthew, you certainly found something among the killer's bullets. The only problem is that I have no idea what this thing is. But if it has anything to do with weapons, Rose will know. Let us send this bizarre object to her. Let's go.
Last year's D2 runner-up who just swept Kohala set scores went 35-12, 8th and 16th. Eagles to get 13 and Hawaii next.
This is 30 hours. I will be speeding this one up, but I will let the other one run its course. For now, I'll see y'all then. Okay everyone, we have returned and let's get the results of the blood from Charlie. Matthew, it's a good thing I built the DNA machine. I'm not sure I'd have known how to use the rest of Viola's equipment. Thanks for helping, Charlie. Did you learn anything about the blood Matthew collected from the killer's handkerchief? Well, as you might rightfully have expected, the blood was mostly Patricia Rochester's. but there were also traces of something else. And that was your killer's blood. Patricia was AB negative, but the sample also contained B negative blood. Your killer must have cut themselves with the gun trigger. So our killer has B negative blood. This will allow us to narrow down the suspect list, Matthew. Okay, let's find out who this killer is. So let's go ahead and speed this up. I must say, Matthew, this piece of metal you found in the killer's bullets had me stumped for quite a while. And then I realized why. Well, don't keep us in suspense, Rose. What is it? This fragment is, in fact, part of something bigger. But it's not a weapon, it's a clip. It must have come apart while the killer was loading their revolver, with this part dropping into the box of ammunition. But more specifically, it comes from the kind of clip used to attach a name tag to clothing. That means our killer wears a name tag, Matthew. They'll soon be swapping it for an inmate number with you on their case.
Jeremy lived with an exotic dancer named Holly Doyle. Where she worked.
Matthew, it's finally time to shed light on Gryphon's darkest secrets. Let us arrest Patricia Rochester's killer. There's not a second to lose.
Things of that nature. When questioned by police, Holly said Overstreet was home on the night Julie was murdered, and she saw no blood on his shirt when he came in.
And it is not Gregory Stravinsky. It is not Horatio Rochester. Oh, it's Sylvia May.
Straight to the line, told people not to disturb him. He was tired. A background check revealed Overstreet had no record. Jeremy had just been called.
Mrs. May, you're under arrest for the murder of Patricia Rochester. So much for caring for your patients. You got it all wrong, Senior Trooper Matthew. I have my patients' best interests at heart. I never hurt one of them. Then why do we find traces of your porridge on the victim's neck, where you checked her pulse? All the staff here eat porridge, Senior Trooper Matthew. You need the energy when you're on your feet all day. Yes, and you all use carbolic soap, but you're the only one who left traces of it on Patricia's necklace when you stole it from her dead body. I never touched her necklace. I'm innocent. Give it up, Nurse May. We found your blood on the handkerchief you wiped your hands on. You shot Patricia in the head and left her there, alone in that basement. I don't get it. Why would you even want Patricia dead? The poor woman was no threat to anyone, not in her current state of mind. You only have yourself to blame, Senior Trooper Matthew. I wouldn't have had to kill her if you hadn't come here. You showed up asking her about the devil and jogged her memory, and then she remembered she'd seen us together the day she was committed. Us? You mean you and the devil? You were working with the devil? He might have been the devil to you, Senior Trooper Matthew, but he was the love of my life, and now you've caught us. I guess there's no point keeping it a secret. From the moment we met years ago, I'd always admired his mind. His ruses were crafted down to the finest details.
Anytime you're having a divorce situation where kids are involved, and one half of that equation.
And so, when he came up with an idea to make some money by helping rich people lock up bothersome individuals, I was happy to help him. So this whole scheme was his idea. What, facilitating murders wasn't satisfying enough? Sometimes murder seemed like overkill, Senior Trooper Matthew. Sometimes it's easier to silence people simply by locking them up and discrediting them entirely. Just like the Rochesters did with Patricia. How many more people have you committed at their behest? Confess. How stupid do you think I am, Senior Trooper Matthew? William didn't speak, and I won't either. As you wish, Mrs. May. You're under arrest for the murder of Patricia Rochester and the unlawful committal of countless patients. Judge Lawson shall deal with you.
One big mess.
No question there, too.
Mrs. May, you stand accused of murdering Patricia Rochester and working with William Olin to commit individuals to Gryphon Sanctuary on false grounds. How do you plead? Guilty, Your Honor. I had a good thing going on and Patricia got in the way of it. Your callousness is appalling. Regardless, I am prepared to consider a more lenient sentence if you name all the people who employed your evil services. How foolish do you think I am? The sort of people who can afford my services are not the kind I would wish to go up against, Your Honor. I shan't say a word. Very well. In that case, this court hereby sentences you to life in prison. Life sentence? Why don't you just kill me now? Matthew, I commend you on arresting Patricia Rochester's killer. Another job well done. And I must say, it's a relief to know Viola played no part in it. Thank you, Chief, but we still have many questions that need answering. Patricia is clearly not the only person the Rochesters got rid of by sending them to Gryphon.
I found something that worked.
We must learn who else has been wrongfully committed to Gryphon Sanctuary because of them.
See if Cosmetics can make a difference for you. Cosmetics is proven to help people with moderate to severe toxic.
Then it sounds like your work is not yet done, Matthew. It's up to you to get to the bottom of this.
You should be judged for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you've received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious
Take a look at the other one. Viola Pemberton was cleared from the start. Clarence Watts, cleared early. Gregory Stravinsky, A negative blood, not B negative. Horatio Rochester, no name tag. It was Sylvia May. I'll see you guys for Lost Soul 66.
If you know someone who has an uncontrollable
Okay, and we are back now. Let's start Lost Soul 66.
that Abilify can cause uncontrollable gambling. If you had significant financial losses or lost your home,
it is now clear that the Rochesters used her and the devil to get rid of the people they judged bothersome, like the deputy mayor or Horatio's own wife. The question is, who else did they get rid of in such a manner? Matthew, you need to find a way to make Mrs. May talk. She's your only way to obtain those names. Senior Trooper Matthew, I would also like your help in clearing up the asylum once and for all. With all the sinister practices you have uncovered there, it has become obvious that Gryphon is in dire need of new management. Mayor Castletown seems favorable to my candidature as deputy mayor. With any luck, I might not be judged for much longer, but if Stravinsky's removal is my last court order, I shall be proud. It sounds like we have a plan. Matthew, I'll leave you to deal with Mr. Stravinsky and Mrs. May. Let's talk to Nurse May first. Mrs. May, in addition to committing murder, you're responsible for ruining the lives of dozens of people. All those patients in the asylum who were never insane. If their families thought they were better off at Gryphon, who was I to argue? You watched poor innocent people lose their minds as a result of treatment they never needed. But what we're really interested in now is knowing exactly how many times the Rochesters called on your services to get rid of inconvenient people. We know Patricia wasn't the only one. If there's anything left of your compassion, Mrs. May, then help us do your patients justice. Help us condemn the people who have them wrongly committed. Ha! Your humanity is touching, Senior Trooper Matthew, but it's too late. You thought I was stupid enough to leave anything incriminating in the asylum? I burned everything before you came for me. Shame on you, Mrs. May, but you underestimate Senior Trooper Matthew's skills. They'll be sure to recover whatever you try to destroy at the asylum.
We had to find a specific time to this button and why it's there. Then, Julie's father remembered something that Julie said to her on the phone.
I can see I'm already all enthused.
Remember that day forever. She says, Mom, let me call you back. I'm happy to live right
That's almost midnight where I am, but that's okay.
It could account for the lack of forced entry. So the search for Overstreet took on a new significance. When questioned, Overstreet's girlfriend, Holly Doyle, said she bought Overstreet 4 shirts, and one of them was missing. She described it as a green, tan, plaid,
Ha!
At an Eddie Bauer store just a few miles away. She immediately went to the men's department, a particular clothing section. She looked around and said, "This is it." She picked it out of all the others. This is the one I bought, and this is the one that's missing. And I asked her, "Are you sure?"
There we go.
She said, "Yes, I'm sure." The buttons on her shirt appeared to be identical to the button found at the crime scene. Everything's kind of falling into place there.
Matthew, that barrel is still smoldering. Quick, let's see what you can salvage.
Police scoured the inside of Julie's apartment for any signs of forensic evidence that would link Overstreet to the crime. Unfortunately, they couldn't find any. They also couldn't find Jeremy Overstreet. You could tell
Excuse
by
me.
looking at that. I'm sure you could tell by looking at me that our stress level was about at 100%. 1 week later, because of his credit card activity, police found
Here we go.
Overstreet in
15.
a hotel 150 miles west.
Blood and thunder. Nurse May did not lie when she said she had destroyed everything. Still, there may be proof of the Rochester's use of her services in those documents, and if anyone can retrieve that information, it'll be Evie.
In his wallet,
We're gonna let her do that. We will fire Gregory Stravinsky now. I'm looking forward to doing this. He may not be guilty of murder, but him losing his job is good. Senior Trooper Matthew, I didn't expect to see you again. I'm rather busy now that I've lost another staff member. You needn't worry about being busy anymore, Mr. Stravinsky. You have quite clearly proven your incompetence, with one of your own staff members unlawfully committing people right under your nose. As such, by order of the Court of Concordia, you are no longer the director of this asylum. You mean I'm fired? Who's going to run the asylum then? The lunatics will seize the opportunity to take control if you don't rule them with an iron fist. We'll leave Gryphon in the hands of someone with stronger moral fiber than yourself, Mr. Stravinsky. Someone who respects the law and has the patient's interest at heart. Oh well, good luck finding that, Senior Trooper Matthew. If the patient's interest drove this profession, nothing would ever get this done. Nothing would ever get done. Now that Mr. Stravinsky's been given his marching orders, we shall need to find a suitable replacement, Senior Trooper Matthew. I admit it will be difficult to find someone experienced at such short notice. But good point, Senior Trooper Matthew. The asylum must have called upon external doctors for consultations. Someone who knows Gryphon, but hasn't been corrupted by it, would be the perfect candidate. Splendid idea! Let's look around the admissions office and find a list of doctors we can consider for the position.
If you're burdened by belly pain or constipation, and you try any number of laxatives, probiotics, and fiber, it could be wearing on you. Tell your doctor what you've tried and how long you've been at it. Linzess works differently from laxatives. Linzess treats adults with IBS or constipation or chronic constipation.
Here we go.
It can help relieve your belly pain and let you have more frequent and complete bowel movements that are easier to pass. Do not give Linzess to children less than 6. It should not be given to children 6 to less than 18. It may harm you. Don't take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe,
Here we go, 7 seconds.
Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Ask your doctor if 90 days of Linzess may be right for you.
That box is labeled Visiting Doctors. Senior Trooper Matthew, this might be exactly what we're looking for. Let's open it and see what we can find.
So many probiotics. What do I choose?
Hard to decide.
Hey, my friends have been telling me about you. Oh, and some also told me that Flora Store is different. Oh, wow. Restore the natural flora in your digestive tract.
Okay.
Means Flora Store. And healthy flora means healthy digestion. You can read all about Flora Store inside. Okay.
4TI.
You get that little smudge right off his box to look up.
1Z.
Be by eye with Flora Store.
EST. Okay. Goodness, Senior Trooper Matthew, that box is filled with badges from various doctors. But how are we supposed to know which one would be best place to take over the asylum? Splendid idea. Miss Holloway can run their names against the Concordia Medical Board and draw up a short list of the best candidates. Let's send these badges to her.
Our experts work with you. We get to know your business. Then we design and deliver a solution.
And I'll see you guys in 18 hours when that is done too. I'll see y'all then. Okay, folks, we have come back. Let's get the results of the pile of badges first. Matthew, I've carefully checked the credentials of the doctors who previously worked at Gryphon, and I believe there is one who might interest you. I'm intrigued, Miss Holloway. Gryphon Sanctuary must be managed by someone both competent and conscientious. Well, Matthew, you might remember Dr. Jones, a physician we met back in New Haven. It turns out he's had an interesting career since we last crossed paths. Dr. Jones decided to specialize in the maladies of the mind, and he published... Dr. Jones postulates that his new treatment plans could transform the patient's lives in mental asylums. He argues that institutions like Gryphon could be managed in more humane ways. A new life is exactly what Gryphon Sanctuary needs. We must speak to the good doctor at once.
20% on your favorite brands and get fast free shipping. Shop online at Chewy.com. Candace Miller tackles the hairy issue.
Talk to Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, we're very interested in your experience in the subject of mental maladies. Can you tell us a little bit about your work? Well, I'm delighted that you've asked, Senior Trooper Matthew. You see, this new discipline, psychiatry as they're now calling it, is very much in its infancy still, but there are some promising developments. My research in animal therapy yields excellent results. Giving mentally disturbed patients companion animals was 75% more efficient than electroshock therapy. Patients who were given small animals to feed and play with became calmer and needed less medication. My best results are achieved with the Concordia Fuzzy Lock. Dr. Jones, I see that you are committed to the welfare of the patients. Would you be interested in managing Gryphon Sanctuary? It's an attractive proposition, Senior Trooper Matthew, but I must be certain that my bunnies would thrive at Gryphon. You see, they have a rather strict diet. If you could verify that the hopping helenium flower grows on the premises, I could start my work tomorrow. Very well, but if we must scout the grounds for bunny food, we shall have a bite to eat first, too.
Sorry, that was Matthew. We're supposed to work with the city chart.
Well, I'm still under unlimited I may be unlimited energy happy hour for the other case that's going on, but that's alright.
I told him everything that I know about Sarah. Yeah. Nicole, this isn't about Sarah. This is me? The 4th of July. You said you didn't remember anything? No, right. It's from Spinner to Kill. So you drank the... No, I only remember one margarita. Maybe I was dehydrated. And did you take any drugs that night? No. I was going to ask you to know that one drink. Is it possible that somebody at the party drugged it? You said that you treated the doctor.
There it is.
A complete exam? No, I mean...
Green flower.
Transfer to his house. He sticks your hand in and said that I should stick his hand.
Okay.
I recall, I need to ask you. Is it possible for such close didn't remember?
Here we go.
It was sore.
Senior Trooper Matthew, I admit botany isn't one of my areas of expertise. How can we ascertain if this plant is a specimen of hopping helenium? Oh, of course. You can compare the specimen against a register of plants and herbs. I eagerly await the results.
We think that you may have been raped. What? We think the predator, Sarah was drugged Friday night. Cameron was at that party. No, Cameron rescued her. That's what he wanted her to think the same way he wanted you to think that he rescued her. Well, Matthew, did you ask him if he and Cameron and Sarah would be the one? No, but they were texting at
One. There we go. Ah. 15. Hopping helenium flower. It's a match. Great success, Senior Trooper Matthew. You've demonstrated that hopping helenium grows in the grounds of Gryphon Sanctuary. Then Dr. Jones will have what he needs for his bunny therapy. I must admit that giving mental patients bunnies for treatment sounds rather unorthodox, but innovation has always been a Concordian virtue, and I shall not stand in its way. Let's go and ask Dr. Jones to sign his contract as the new director of Gryphon Sanctuary.
Can I talk to you?
Are you okay? What happened to George Martha?
No, it's fine. I just, need to ask you about something.
Yes, wait, we and I had a hell of a
Dr. Jones, we can confirm that hopping helenium does indeed grow around Gryphon Sanctuary. Your bunny shall have plenty to eat. I'm delighted to hear it, and so is Sigmund. You'll see that with the help of Sigmund and his associates, I shall transform the lives of patients at Gryphon Sanctuary. I am glad to hear it. Not only were Gryphon's methods barbaric, but some of their patients should never have been committed in the first place. I have heard about this, and naturally my first action as director will be to carry out an asylum-wide investigation to ascertain whether each patient belongs at Gryphon or not. Straitjackets and lobotomies shall be a thing of the past, Senior Trooper Matthew. We wish you every success, Dr. Jones. Thank you, and Senior Trooper Matthew, before you go, we shan't be needing this anymore. Perhaps you'd like it as a souvenir?
We decided to start fresh.
Okay, look, before you tell me that you cheated on him, I'd really rather not.
You see, that's the thing. I took the vow with him seriously.
Evie, were you able to retrieve names from the documents Nurse May tried to burn? Do we know who else the Rochesters had committed?
You see any guys with me?
Well, yes and no. As always, the Rochesters have been clever. There's nothing in there that implicates them by name. However, their involvement in several unlawful committals is more than obvious. First, there was a bank manager who publicly protested the Rochesters' influence on Wolf Street. He hanged himself at Gryphon. Another was the chief editor of the Concordian Gazette, who'd written scathing articles concerning the Rochesters' climb through the ranks of politics. But the most telling example is that of a politician who, on the eve of winning the senatorial election, got sent to Gryphon on grounds of severe hysteria, only for a Rochester to become senator instead. Matthew, that's it. I don't care if we have no solid proof. Something needs to be done about the Rochesters once and for all. Good idea. Maybe the new police commissioner could help us. Let us present our findings to him post-haste.
There you go.
Who's going to do as a pregnancy?
Mr. Cole, she stands strong. I got her home.
Ah, Senior Trooper Matthew, nice to see you. I'm still finding my way around my new office. Commissioner, we're sorry to disturb you, but we have some most troubling news which couldn't wait. I'm sure you've heard of the extremely influential Rochester family. It has now become clear that they have been wrongfully committing their political opponents to Gryphon Sanctuary. Goodness gracious! And you have proof of this, Senior Trooper Matthew? Unfortunately, they used an accomplice, and the paper trail cannot be traced back to them, but their involvement is clear. I see. Well, the evidence is clearly scarce, but I shan't have anyone to fly the law on my watch. I shall keep an eye on them. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Senior Trooper Matthew. Please take this as your reward. Nice. 20,000. There we go. Matthew, there you are. I know that you've been tying up some loose ends at the asylum. But the mayor is here. He's been looking for Judge Lawson everywhere. Senior Trooper Matthew, thank you for bringing Mr. Lawson back. I'm right here, Mayor Castletown. What's the matter? My dear man? I'm the new deputy mayor, Mayor Castletown. This is an honor. I will strive to make this city a better place. You can count on it. Sorry about that, guys. There wasn't much that you lost. Then make haste. You're scheduled to give your inauguration speech in an hour. Fellow Concordians, I've been honored to serve our city as district attorney, then judge for some time. And now you have bestowed even greater responsibilities on me as the new deputy mayor. Justice and order are the values I cherish the most, and I shall continue to put them first as I take on this new role as one of your leaders. Long live Concordia. Hear, hear. Congratulations, Deputy Mayor Lawson. Senior Trooper Matthew and the Flying Squad will continue to support you. Matthew, Mr. Lawson's appointment as Deputy Mayor is a cause for celebration, as is the appointment of Dr. Jones as the new Director of Gryphon Sanctuary. And neither could have happened without you, Matthew. Congratulations. But our investigations into the Rochester family have taken a troubling turn. That's the least one can say. Long-standing criminal associations, forcefully locking people up, bribery, the list goes on. And yet the Rochester's reputation remains unsullied. Matthew, I'm sick of trailing behind them, being a witness to their schemes. We must get one step ahead. Yes, despite my attachment to Bernadine, I must concede that most of her family seems to be on the wrong side of the law. And since the Rochesters are as ambitious as they are ruthless, politics is where we shall fight them. Matthew, our next port of call is Ivory Hill, the political heart of Concordia. Now, as mentioned, I did this in regular mode, but unfortunately my rookiness at Bandicam caused me to lose the rest of the chapter after the first part of Chapter 2. Current case is not done yet, but by the time current case isn't done yet, but you know what? It's okay. Pretty sure by the time this video is uploaded, that case will be finished. The 20 energy. And that'll do. And I know I have some sticker packs to open, but you know what? I'm going to do that after I finish the next case, number 49. But for now, thanks for watching, everyone.